Based on the pressures, based on the standard that was set, and just based on the physical locations of where we were going, and based on the fact that snowboarding is probably one of the hardest things that you could possibly film, the scope of this project became the most ambitious project in this genre that I'd ever heard of.
That's It, That's All was kind of the, come along, a little more core snowboard, us being able to go on these long and extended trips. A bit more true to the snowboarding culture. It was a blast to make. We had a ton of fun making that film. And then, Art of Flight, we were able to expand and go to some incredible destinations. We definitely upped the level of how things were captured.
The Art of Flight was the pinnacle. It blew everybody's mind. It was planet Earth meets the best action snowboarding you've ever seen in your life, and it just made everybody go, whoa, like, this is what's actually possible in this space.
It has set a standard, for sure. And to still be able to stand the testament of time 5 years later and still be one of the top films out there is pretty amazing.
Get out of town. That is the future, and the future is now.
We knew we wanted to do another film, but we also knew that it had to change. We didn't want to do the same thing. This current film is definitely different. It's by no means The Art of Flight 2.
Water evaporates, clouds form, life begins. A snowstorm atop high peaks falls heavy, settles, melts, flows through tributaries, streams, into rivers, then finds the sea and returns to the air. This process we follow, this cycle we ride. When I wrote the poem 20 years ago, I was just making observations of, my migrational path, with my love for surfing in the mountains.
It's essentially our, physical path, the physical journey that we're, trying to take, and it's this somewhat contained and isolated system that brings, majority of our weather here in North America. For years, we've chased weather, and we wanted to stop and take a different approach this time around. Immersion is what we're after with this film. We wanted to set up shop and wait it out and let those waves of change kind of wash through.
The inspiration has been totally solid from the beginning, and it's following the hydrological cycle around this North Pacific gyre and visiting all the locations that we do along the way.
Really, it starts in Wyoming, specifically Jackson, where we live, and pushes out into the Pacific. We go all the way over to the western side, to Japan, to Kamchatka, Russia, back around up to Alaska, back home. If you could draw, any one route of influence, I would say it was with Brian Iguchi. I was lucky enough to grow up here and be able to do a lot of traveling with him when I was younger, and he came up with this process we follow, the cycle we ride. It was just such a clear thought and concept. It was a whole idea. And that whole idea was a seed planted in fertile soil. I think going into this film, really wanted to do something a little bit more authentic. We're putting so much time and effort into it, and it's one thing doing a short movie where it's an entertainment piece trying to showcase a little snowboarding, but this film kind of turned into something where if we're gonna do this and we're gonna put this much time into it, well, let's challenge ourselves and dive into this story and adventure that had always been the kind of ultimate goal. It wasn't so much going places that people hadn't been, it was more riding terrain that I myself haven't ever ridden before.
It's one thing to set out with the vision to tell a story and tell a better story and really elevate the experience by telling a good story, but it's a whole nother thing to actually execute that.
You know, it's one thing to dream something up and imagine it, but it's a whole other thing to actually see it through from start to finish. It's so fun when it's in its vision state, and then when you gotta actually do the work, which always will be a lot more than you thought it was gonna be. It's a scary process. I would say that this is the most ambitious project that I've set out to do. This project takes the cake.